Welcome back, everybody. Extreme weather events fueled by climate change are getting more intense and more frequent. Mental health issues actually spike after these disasters. There's a study done in 2021 that found that people who survived California's deadliest wildfire had rates of PTSD normally seen in war vets.
Sheesh. New research shows that surviving climate disaster also affects our cognitive abilities. Joining us now is Dr. Jyoti Mishra, who's the Associate Psychiatry Professor at UC San Diego. Thank you so much for being with us today. You studied the survivors of the Camp Fire. What kind of changes did you find that they experienced before and then after they went through this?
So in our work, we didn't study the community before the fires. It was only after the deadliest fire that we came in contact with the community to express that we were really interested in figuring out in this very important topic of how mental health is affected. It's one of the symptoms that are silently affected. We know that smoke can affect our lungs and our cardiac health and so on, but we're looking at people 6 months after the fires and we're seeing these chronic effects. And as you mentioned, there are these subjective symptoms of PTSD and anxiety and depression. But then we also wanted to look at how cognition is being affected. And here, these are objective and standard measures. And we find that people are feeling more distracted by things in their environment. And their brains are working harder to cope with this.
And this is on top of some of the mental health issues that you guys found previously, prior to that. So can you share with us what you found before you did this specific study?
So all the data collection actually happened at the same time. We were just taking some time to look at the brain effects and the cognitive effects that take more time to process. But in 2021, we published work in 750 people looking at those who are directly exposed by the fires, that is people who've had direct loss from the fires, as some kind of personal property loss or family members being injured, versus people who are indirectly affected. That is, they witnessed the fire in the community but not been directly affected. So we find that there's this graded effect that PTSD is 3 times higher than the control population in those who are directly affected and about 2 times higher in those who are indirectly affected. And depression and anxiety are also about 2 times higher than the regular population.
And how long do these adverse effects last?
That's a great question. I think we need to continue to do these measurements again and again. And that becomes difficult, especially because we're now witnessing these climate-related disasters at a very high frequency, such that in California, we have a fire season almost yearly. So how that is exacerbating these symptoms in our communities, we need to study that better. And more what we call longitudinal work needs to be done. That's a great question.
So you guys looked at this natural disaster being a fire. Can we somehow link other natural disasters and say it would be very similar to those who have lost something or been affected by tornadoes or hurricanes or floods?
Yes, natural disasters have happened for a long time. The difference is that they are becoming more frequent and more intense given that climate change is happening around us. And previous work with regular natural disasters has shown that there is enhanced post-traumatic stress and anxiety and depression that happens right after a disaster. There's less work that's been done to show that this can happen chronically. So like we showed that this can affect people in the long term, 6 months to a year, even after a disaster like this. There's less work to say that that's been done in the context of the questions you ask around tornadoes and hurricanes. But I would believe that, yes, people would be impacted.
Yeah. So, Dr. Mishra, what can we do with this information to actually better help protect people?
We do need to get more mental health services out there in our communities, which is difficult because many of these communities are suburban communities which have low healthcare scores to start with. So there's not that many experts. And so what we are seeing is that the community themselves channelizes their own social work supporters to bring about more psychological first aid, thinking about resiliency solutions, and sort of thinking about disasters not from an emotional point of view, but from a cognitive point of view as to what your plan might be if a next disaster might hit your area. So just as in California, we all have these earthquake kits that we keep, just in case an earthquake hits us. The same way relative to a fire or relative to a hurricane, we need to figure out what our plan of action would be.
Yeah, I think that's key. Having a plan always makes you feel better. Always. Dr. Jyoti Mishra, Associate Psychiatry Professor at UC San Diego, thank you for that. And that, of course, is just the human population. I guarantee those animals are stressed, too.
Yeah, no, and it's just good to bring awareness because you never know what someone's going through. You don't know what you don't know.
No, you don't.
And it's good to, like, check in on some of these folks, right?
Yep. We're going to be right back after a quick break.